So the good news is Liverpool probably won't be signing Alexander Isak. It looks like he's not up for sale, and it looks like Newcastle are not changing their stance on Isak. So please, Newcastle, make sure that remains the same. The bad news is Liverpool now looks set to sign Hugo Ekitike. They cannot get Isak. They've gone in for Ekitike. They've told Newcastle, look, you can't have both. You're either going to give us Isak, and if you don't, we're going to go take Ekitike. And Newcastle, as Newcastle should, chose Isak over Ekitike. Why wouldn't they? Now, Ekitike will be a really good signing for Liverpool, a really good addition, and he would really complement the likes of Wirtz and Salah and Gakpo and potentially Rodrygo if he comes in well. And it looks like Ekitike is set to happen, and with Luis Diaz's exit looking more and more likely, Rodrygo to Liverpool is becoming something that could happen. And look, as a Manchester United fan, the fact that they've won the league, they've signed Wirtz, Kerkez, Frimpong, I already don't like. Ekitike on top of that, Rodrygo on top of that, potentially Marc Guéhi, potentially other business depending on sales. I don't like this, but I'm going to get into the news on Liverpool and the ins and the outs, what's been said on Ekitike and Rodrygo, and what's been said on Luis Diaz and the outs. We're going to sum up all the Liverpool news in the next 2-3 minutes here, and then we're going to talk about what Liverpool's plan is and how I really feel about Ekitike and how I think he will do at Liverpool and how I think he'll fit in the same with Rodrygo. So the most recent update from a somewhat decent source of information in Ben Jacobs on Liverpool is pretty much that Liverpool are optimistic about reaching an agreement with Frankfurt for Hugo Ekitike, having already agreed terms with the player. Frankfurt's meticulous negotiators, Frankfurt know how to get a lot of money out of teams, but advanced talks continue today and potentially over the weekend. And there's a feeling that both Liverpool and Frankfurt want this deal done over the weekend, by the end of the weekend, and Ekitike is pushing for the move. In terms of just sort of general updates, we know that personal terms have been agreed. There's an agreement there. We know that Ekitike's agent has told Frankfurt that he wants the move. Ekitike had interest from Chelsea, Manchester United, and Newcastle, but wants Liverpool. I don't know if Man United would have actually gone for him, considering we probably have no money now unless we sell anyone. Liverpool presented a bid close to 80 million euros, which is just over 60 million pounds that was rejected. Frankfurt want more. I think 70 million could get this deal over the line. Now, 70 million is a lot of money for a player that's, this is his first good season in a while. Obviously, he didn't get the opportunity at PSG. But when you look at the market and how expensive it is, and when you look at the fact that Frankfurt are willing to be quite flexible with it, they want 70 to 85 million for Ekitike. But they're willing to be flexible in the sense of they don't want it all in the next 1 or 2 years. You could pay it across 5 years, which means that Liverpool could go and spend 85 million on Ekitike, but if it's paid across 5 years, they would have a lot of money still left to do other business this year. Negotiations are advanced and could conclude this weekend, and talks are very much ongoing and positive. So Ekitike to Liverpool looks like it's going to happen. I think that means Isak is off. I think the fact that Isak is happy at Newcastle, he's not actively pushing for the move. Newcastle are obviously going to pick Isak over bringing Ekitike in, as they should. And Newcastle are very clear, even if you put a record bid in, they don't want to sell Isak. And considering Isak is happy there, he's not pushing for any kind of move or way out of Newcastle. And I think Newcastle hopes to give him a new contract. I think it's very much a situation where Liverpool have learned they have to go for Ekitike. And that's not a bad thing for Liverpool, because they looked at Ekitike earlier in the window. He's someone they liked. They had an ambitious plan to go for Isak, which they knew was going to be difficult. And as I've said in my recent videos, I've seen a lot of Liverpool fans online feel that the minute they got that news that they were going to make a bid for Isak and pay 120 million, they thought they'd be getting Isak. And I said, if he's not for sale and Newcastle say he's not for sale, it will be difficult. Like 150 million, it could be a different question. But I did feel that a lot of people were jumping on that Isak would go to Liverpool as soon as Liverpool were interested. And I did say in my last couple of videos, I think Isak is a harder deal to do than people think. And it looks like that deal is off in case something changes last minute. So Ekitike coming in is a good option. And it's not necessarily an Isak alternative. We did look at him earlier in the window. The timeline is he's scheduled to play in a friendly this weekend, but that could change. Richard Hughes wanted Isak, but Ekitike is not a second choice. He has been a priority target from the start, which is true. And Liverpool are accelerating. So that is the latest on Ekitike. I just realised my screen wasn't shared for that bit of the news. I now want to talk about Rodrygo and then Diaz and get through that news, and then we'll have a conversation about why this is really good business for Liverpool. So, if Luis Diaz is sold, Liverpool will most certainly target a replacement. And let's be honest, there's no better replacement on the market than Rodrygo, particularly because of his versatility to play left wing and right wing. Actually, in my opinion, been better on the left, but played most of his career on the right. You've got very good Salah backup. When Salah goes to AFCON, you've got very good cover there, but you've got a very good left winger. Now, in terms of Rodrygo, Liverpool like him. They have interest in Rodrygo. They've made some contact with Real Madrid. The player is going to decide in the coming weeks. It feels like he wants to stay at Madrid, but he's being sort of pushed out by Madrid so much and getting so little minutes by Xavi Alonso that he may have to accept his fate and leave Madrid. There is talks that he could be open to Liverpool, but there's obviously good relationships with the agent and Liverpool, and he could cost between 80 to 100 million euros. Now, there's talk of Liverpool wanting 70 to 80 million pounds for Diaz, which money could be used on bringing Rodrygo in as his replacement, which is insane business from Liverpool. So what is the latest on Diaz? He's up for sale. Liverpool are giving him a price tag. Apparently, Bayern have agreed personal terms with him. That's quite a hefty salary. And Bayern made a bid of 67 million euros, which is 56 million pounds. And Bayern expected to return with an improved offer. Now, there's talk of Liverpool likely to accept 80 million. I think Liverpool accept 70 million because of his age and the fact that his contract is a little bit lower. But there's an important meeting imminent, and potentially Diaz's exit could advance, which could allow Rodrygo to happen. So yeah, let's talk about Ekitike, then we'll talk about Rodrygo and why it could be really good business for Liverpool. And by the way, this is just a quick sum up of what a lot of journalists have said. They gave a lot more detail than this, but I couldn't be bothered to go into that. So with Ekitike, he's not necessarily the most clinical finisher. He did underperform his XG last season. He's not known for being a box finisher, ruthless player like Haaland. He's very much a link-up specialist. He's very much best known for what he does outside the box, linking up players. And when you have output wingers like Salah and Gakpo potentially playing, it works well with them. You look at Firmino, he was never an out-and-out goal scorer, but Mane and Salah were pretty good goal-scoring wingers, so he got the best out of them. And Ekitike, well, he's a little bit different to Firmino. He's more of a striker. He's more lanky. He has elements of that in his locker. He's very good at dropping deep. He's very good at creating overloads, and he's very good at drawing out defenders. His movement can draw out defenders with him, which could open up space for Salah or potentially Gakpo to make inside runs into, which when you've got Florian Wirtz and McAllister in your team, could then have the ability to play that pass. Even Ekitike, if he drops deep and receives the ball, has the ability to play an insane pass into Gakpo or Salah or Rodrygo if he signs, who could attack centrally, as Ekitike sometimes likes to drift wide when he drops deep, drawing players out, opening up that space centrally. And I think he'd work really well in Slot's 4-2-3-1 system. Of course, he plays his best football in the front too. But I think with Florian Wirtz being a very, very attacking-minded number 10, I think that Florian Wirtz and him could build some kind of relationship centrally. Where Florian Wirtz can sometimes bomb ahead if he's dropping deeper with Florian Wirtz's ability to get forward. And I think with Ekitike, his best work comes from outside the box. He's very good technically. He's very good at linking up. And I think he would work really well with an Ekitike. And so he'd work really well with Florian Wirtz, Salah Gakpo. He works very well with good players. We saw him and Marmoush create this deadly duo. I think he would work well together. He'd complement Wirtz. Wirtz could, get forward, attack the box. Ekitike can drop deep, but he can make runs, and Wirtz can find them with his deadly runs. He's got the ability to find Wirtz. If Wirtz makes runs, it could work well. Now, if you look at Ekitike, his numbers are pretty good. 15 goals and 8 assists in the Bundesliga last season in 33 games. But more importantly, 22 goals and 12 assists last season in all competitions, which is 34 goal contributions. Of course, statistics are always inflated in the Bundesliga. You don't get the same kind of numbers in the Premier League. Very few players go from Bundesliga to Premier League and get the same kind of numbers, but very, very good numbers. And he obviously was at PSG, didn't get a lot of opportunities, struggled. And, a few people are concerned of this is his first proper season in a while. But if you look at him as a player in terms of traits, in terms of technicality, there's a very, very good player there. With Ekitike, he's technically sharp, and he's not necessarily known as a goal scorer as a striker. He's known as a player that improves the players around him. But he's got a lot of similarities to Isak, but Isak's ball striking is definitely better. And people think that Ekitike could flop in the Premier League, get pushed off the ball, but those people also said the same about Isak. And there's a feeling that he could be the next Alexander Isak. So if you can't get Isak, get the guy that's maybe closest to him. And he's got good ball control, good ball retention. He's good in tight spaces. He can drop deep, connect midfield to attack. But also he can play with his back to goal. He can dribble the ball. He can attack space. It's not just dropping deep and linking up. It's his touch, his movement, his dribbling, his back to goal play. He's a very, very good player, and he can score goals. And I think he would have really good chemistry with Wirtz. I think opening space for Wirtz to push forward with his movement and vice versa. I think it works really well. He's not just a future star. He's the next Isak type profile with less ball striking. He's not just a project. He's performing at Frankfurt for a good year now, and he'll be surrounded by elite players like Wirtz and Salah, and that's how you get the best out of him with elite players. Look how good he was with Marmoush. I feel like he's the kind of striker that doesn't need service, doesn't need everyone to give him the ball in the box. He's the kind of striker that makes everyone around him better because he can facilitate everyone around him as much as he can score. And that brings really good balance to Liverpool's front line and a really good dynamic how we can improve players around him. We talk about him and we talk about Slot and what Slot could be doing tactically. Wirtz to run beyond and find the pockets if he drops deep. Opening up with his movement could open up the half space for Rodrygo or Gakpo or Salah to cut in. And we know that's where all three of those wingers do their best work, when they can get the ball, they can cut in and go on their stronger foot. Frimpong and Kerkez, they will be overlapping and holding the width out wide. And they will already be stretching the opposition's defence because they will probably act almost as wing-backs high and wide in possession, which means there'll be space for Wirtz to find Ekitike making runs and exploit the opposition's defence. Ekitike, we know, likes to drift out wide. We know he likes to rotate with wingers, and wingers can come on the inside, and Liverpool have a lot of wingers that can come on the inside. We know he likes to draw up space and make dangerous runs, and we know he's very good at positional rotation. So we know that Ekitike could work really well in that Liverpool front line and bring it a fluid dynamic. But the big name, and there's links of Chelsea, there's links of Arsenal, of course, but the big name is Rodrygo. Where's he going to go? Is he going to stay at Madrid? Is he going to move somewhere in the Premier League? This is the guy that if you sell Diaz and you literally use that money to get Rodrygo, in my opinion, it's really good business. And I wouldn't want to see Rodrygo at Arsenal, Liverpool, or Chelsea, but particularly Liverpool, because I think he suits Liverpool better than the other teams. I think he would do better at Liverpool than Chelsea and Arsenal, because Liverpool play their wingers more on the inside than Chelsea and Arsenal. It makes more sense for him to go to Liverpool as well. Sorry, this story just came out right now that apparently Isak has given the green light to Saudi. I don't think it's true, but I was just looking at like, what just came up here? But anyway, going into Rodrygo, for me, he plays on the right at Real Madrid because he's behind Vinicius. He's behind Mbappe, but he's the selfless one. He's the one that I think suffers because of them too. I think he's best on the left wing. I think he's a natural left winger. I think if he's given an overlapping fullback and he can come on the inside because he's better operating more on the inside than holding the width, that's how you get the best out of Rodrygo. Arsenal hold the width, Chelsea potentially hold the width. I think he suits Liverpool to a T. He's got very good close control. He's very two-footed, and he's very good in tight areas. Like, he's very technically good, very good on the ball. He's shown what he can do in big games. And Real Madrid barely give him freedom, and Slot will. And I think if Rodrygo wants to establish himself as a Ballon d'Or winner and an elite level player, his best thing would be to get out Real Madrid. People go to Real Madrid to win the Ballon d'Or because Real Madrid and Barcelona have a different level of PR. Their players are more like to win the Ballon d'Or. Even if you had a brilliant season in the Premier League, you know, you're more like to win it because of the PR of Real Madrid and Barcelona, yeah. But when you think about it, if you're looking at Liverpool, the freedom you get under Slot, the hardest and most difficult and best league in the world, Rodrygo potentially at Liverpool in a role where he's going to thrive, where he can become one of the main men, could potentially become the Ballon d'Or Rodrygo. Now, I'm not saying that Rodrygo is good enough to win a Ballon d'Or, but I'm saying what Rodrygo could do at Liverpool actually would be better than what he could potentially do at Real Madrid next season if we look at system and getting the best out of him. I think he'd work really well with a fullback like Kerkez overlapping around as well. So let's have a look into other things. So with Rodrygo, he's very good 1v1. He's got a very good weak foot, and he's very good for his movement off the ball. And when you've got Wirtz and Hugo Ekitike that are good on the ball, good at creating, good at finding space, particularly Wirtz, having a player like Rodrygo that's good at making runs and movement off the ball is going to be a bit of a cheat code. He's obviously a good presser. He obviously is a harder worker than the other Real Madrid players. He's a selfless player. And more importantly, when Salah goes to AFCON, he can play on the right. Cody Gakpo doesn't like the right. Diaz doesn't like the right. But Rodrygo, we know, can play there and has played a lot there. And Slot would finally get to play, under Slot, he'd finally get to play his best position, which for me is left wing. When we look at the little period where Rodrygo went left wing because Vinny had some issues, Rodrygo was probably playing his best football for Real Madrid last season. And if we look at Liverpool and the way it works and the way that their players can combine and what they could potentially be building, and I touched upon this in my last video, but you've got Kerkez potentially pushing high and wide, allowing Rodrygo to cut inside. He's got Kerkez to overlap with. He's got Wirtz to combine with. He's got Ekitike to play passes to. You know, this movement from Kerkez will create space. Wirtz can come into the left 10 row on Rodrygo and can create triangles and combine. And there could be space created for Rodrygo to make runs, and Wirtz and Kerkez can find it. And if you look at all of the players that Liverpool have, on top of a player like Rodrygo, who fits the Liverpool balance very well, this could be a lethal front line. Salah on the right, Rodrygo or Gakpo on the left, assuming Diaz goes. Ekitike dropping in. Liverpool shape would be really dangerous when you look at the overlaps from the attacking fullbacks. When you look at McAllister and Wirtz and the creativity there, Ekitike dropping deep, facilitating the players around him, it would work really, really well. Like, it all seems very good. So yeah, to sum up this video, how do I really feel about Ekitike and Rodrygo to Liverpool? I feel sick. It would be very good. It would work very well. I don't like it. I don't want it to happen, but I'd rather you get Ekitike than Isak. That's what I will say. Anyway, thank you for watching. Bye.